So what are some of the most common reasons that lead to breakups in India or like couples at large?
In general, it's very tough to say nation specific, but and I think there are multiple levels to this, so we do have research showing statistics, interviewing people who've broken up and why breakups happen. So at the superficial level, it looks like cheating would be the number one reason, but according to me, that's really not a reason. That's just on the surface. I look more at the core, and just very simply put, principles of physics or chemistry, things break because they were not glued together well enough.
Are constantly comparing their relationship to the initial years where you almost feel like you're on a of love.
On a high.
Challenging. So
true. I lost you for a moment, but we were talking about stages in relationships. So the so-called honeymoon phase is always fun and passionate. That's when the fire is raging. There is a lot of, I would say, hormonal activity, the sense of attraction and passion. So I don't know if people are really aware of the varieties of love. So the most passionate and the crazy form of love is known as ludic love. So we go through stages like erotic and ludic. For example, erotic love is very passionate and there's a lot of sexuality. Ludic is ludus is the stage of a very topsy-turvy, lots of things happening, and it's the constant messaging, the wanting to meet, and a lot of sexuality, physical attraction, cannot keep your hands off each other, and it's part of the process. You have to allow yourself to go through that. And a lot of people wonder, hey, is this going to last? Now, I would not say that it always has to end. It does not essentially have to end, but it's just, we go into stages. We go in and out of these stages actually. So it's not a fixed stage. Like, if you remember Maslow's hierarchy, that you get done with a need and move on to another need, and then you move higher. But we could go up and down on our ladder. So I would say, we get into the passionate moment and it feels like it was the first day I met her, and that is possible. She made my heart skip a beat, and that could happen again, but we've got to fuel that fire to make that happen. Otherwise, by itself, what is the life cycle of a huge forest fire? It does not last forever. It's devastating, it causes damage, but it goes down. I mean, that's of course a damaging fire. We're talking about a productive fire of love and passion. But I think we go through that fiery phase, and then, I would say attraction gets a couple together, but attraction and sexuality do not keep a couple together. So to get a couple together, what's the first thing you like? You like how someone looks, and you probably like how they dress, and, it's the entire persona that appears to you then. And then we get beyond the mask and we go deeper. And when we go deeper inside, we're looking at companionship and the things that we do together, the things that we like about each other, even though it may not be like, someone may like that somebody else loves pets. You may not like animals, but you may appreciate that someone is kind to them. So it's that respect which starts getting built up in your mind. And that is what keeps people together.
But this reminds me of a theory where people talk about how initially what attracted you most to your partner is what you end up hating them for later in a relationship. Like, let's say you really enjoy someone's like spontaneity, then later you tend to find them irresponsible. So there are many reasons why people might not work out, their future goals don't align, like they have different future. So we know that this happens. So what advice would you give to people that are experiencing feelings of loss and loneliness post a breakup, and how can they like kind of combat this and return to a sense of normalcy?
Right. Actually what you said, the theory, again, that theory is a superficial level observation, that the very thing I liked in you, I now dislike in you. Another example is, he's just so into me. He even has a problem if I'm going out with my friends. Like, he loves me so much, And then within no time, you're like, oh my God, this over possessiveness, to the point of paranoia, to the point of, is he really schizophrenic, or does he have a delusional disorder and thinking that I am with other people?
Mhm.
I think a lot of time people get into relationships not because they don't know their partner, and that's not what is going wrong. They get into relationships not knowing what they want. And they think that I like this, and they think that this is important to me. Like for someone, looks appear to be important, and then they don't realize later that companionness, the companionate ability was important. Or to somebody, hey, money doesn't matter, and finances don't matter. I'm not saying that that's the most important thing, but then later that becomes a point of contention because you cannot live the life that you want. So that the whole point of that, we think we're in control. We think I'm getting what I want, which means I'm in control, and this is good. But the sense of loss of control is what you asked as to how, that actually reflects a basic human flaw, that we don't know how to deal with the loss of control.
They tend to overeat post relationships, or they're not able to sleep, or they're excessively sleeping, or like
Correct.
they're excessively crying. They feel like they've gone into a sense of depression. So like I was wondering if you have any like tips or suggestions on like if there's activities that people can engage themselves with, like maybe writing a journal, going for a run, taking up a new activity, or like the I feel like the initial few days post a breakup can be really difficult. So I was wondering if you have any anecdotes of people you may have helped through this, or any like advice that you've seen work really well with people suffering.
Sure. So, one thing, I think having a support system is very important. It's and different people cope differently. Some of them just want to coop up and be by themselves. I would say that isn't essentially the best way to deal with things, because no matter what, we say we want to deal with it on our own, we want to process it, but you always need, it's like, in a very twisted way, it's like having that diarrhea. You can't just say, hey, I shouldn't be having the diarrhea. Of course the diarrhea is painful. Likewise, the excessive crying and excessive talking is not always helpful, and you think I'm not feeling any better, but the catharsis of getting the crap out of your system is important. And when I mean crap, I mean it's that all the negative feelings, everything that you're going through. Now, we don't have to overdo it, because if you overdo it, either you get dehydrated too. So what I really mean is, it's a way of getting the unwanted things out. And so if you have to process negative information, negative feelings, negative emotions, I say negative information because we're perceiving things wrongly. So when you want to get rid of negative feelings, we get rid of them either by processing and churning them out on our own. We can go through therapy and have a better understanding, which is the superior, it's the best way. But at our own level, let me put it on the triad of thoughts, emotions, and behavior. So if I change how I think about an event, I obviously change how I feel, and I will change the way I behave. But that takes time. Cognitive restructuring and being mindful isn't easy. Yeah, so the first step, when you feel that instant pain and instant hurting feeling, instant loss of control, is be with people who make you feel better. Do things that you like you said, go for a run, go for a jog. You could actually pick your favorite foods, you just don't have to binge too much on them. Watch the movies that you like, do the things that have always anyways given you pleasure. You see, there was a lot in life that gave you pleasure without this person too. It wasn't all this person. Hopefully, you cannot just have every egg and every damn item in that basket. So do the things that you liked, do everything that brought you pleasure, spend time with people who matter. A lot of time people actually get back with friends and family only after a breakup, which is there's actually a term called post-traumatic growth or stress-related growth. You have to go through something bad to realize the good. Unfortunately, at times we just don't realize it. You just never realize how much you were neglecting your work or your family or your other friends. So the first thing to do is, if you've been derailed from your knowing what really mattered to you, get back to things that matter. you may still feel sad, you may still feel lonely, you may still feel broken. That's the thought. We'll deal with that later. First, we change behavior. When we start changing the behavior, we start feeling good about things. The brain already releases dopamine. Now, there are other ways to release dopamine too, like smoking and drinking and alcohol and sex addiction and pornography and masturbation. No, we're not getting into all of those addictive things because we're looking at a sustained high. We're looking at being happy consistently. So I think you engage in behaviors that feel good. You start feeling different. And as you start feeling different, you're in a better emotional state to cognize better, to reappraise your relationship better and realize that what you lost wasn't really as vital as air and water. What you lost was good to have. Well, it's not a must have. You can survive without it. And that is where we start changing our thought process. And when you change your thoughts, your life changes. But in the initial phase, it would be very important to stick around with people who matter, to do things that make you happy. And if you really feel, of course, it's extreme, then seeking professional help is always good. Sometimes when you can't sleep, I mean, there, good audios out there to just calm your mind and deep breathing exercises. In fact, I create a lot of these, I have them on Spotify. So you just listen to things. There's just so much out there in the world, so many resources, so many articles to read. You just Google something like, why did he leave me? You'll actually find a few articles on that. And a lot of them will say it was about him. It's not about you. So everything eventually is working on your cognitions. It's all cognitive restructuring. We cannot feel miserable unless we think that this is miserable for me. It's not the event which really affects how you feel. It's how you think about the event which influences how you feel. So that comes later. We change our thinking, but initially we just do things that boost dopamine in our brain, and that makes us feel good.